Hi everyone, my name is Souza. I'm a solution architect on the fast track team at Microsoft. And today I have with me Jason Duplessis and Andrew Clear. Guys, you want to say hi?
Hey everyone, Jason, also part of the Dynamics Fast Track program. Over to you, Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a principal product manager on the field service and Dynamics 365 scheduling team.
Awesome. Great to have you guys here with us today. And I heard today we're going to be talking about SOA or scheduling operations agent. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, we're going to dive into our one of our new agents that we're coming out with called the scheduling operations agent, or something we call SOA around here. It's our new foray into making scheduling optimization and solving complex scheduling problems a little bit easier and more friendly to work with dispatchers.
Sounds awesome. So, Andrew, what are some like use cases for SOA?
So SOA is really designed to work sort of in context with your dispatchers during their day-to-day as issues arise. SOA helps them fix broken schedules, essentially, or build out new schedules. So there's a couple different ways that we expect them to use it, but the big thing to take away about SOA is it's all about starting with a resource and fixing or building out their schedule for the day, sort of in context on that schedule board. It's very ad hoc, so it feels like the dispatcher is still in control of the whole experience from beginning to end. They have the opportunity to review any changes that we're going to make, but it brings that intelligence that we have through some of our more advanced algorithms and stuff that helps schedule out good routes for resources, but puts it right in their fingertips from the schedule board and allows them to review and apply those changes and make sure everything is kosher.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. I'm sure there's a lot of customers out there that would love to have this ability using AI to fix any kind of scheduling changes, right? Scheduling changes happen every day and they happen often, right? So sounds like a very useful agent.
Yeah, it's our first step. We know there's a long road ahead of us to really empower dispatchers with AI and throughout their day to day. But hopefully this gives a good idea for folks of where we're going, and you can get some good use out of it from day one. So dropping into the schedule board, you can see I've got a couple of resources here. We're about halfway through the day, and we're going to take a look at how SOA can help the dispatcher adjust to changes as they come up. So one of the first scenarios that we're going to look at is just building out a net new schedule. So I have a resource here who I don't have anything scheduled to. You can see for the next couple of days, they've got nothing scheduled. So for Mohammed, I'm going to go ahead and right click on that resource and say suggest schedule. And what that's going to do for me is open up our little optimization panel and give me some options for how I want the AI agent to fill out their schedule for the next couple of days. I get the choice of choosing whether I want to maximize utilization, which that means I'm going to fill up their schedule with as much stuff as I can, minimize travel time, and get as much work on that resources schedule as possible. I could also choose to front load high priority work. And when I do this, what I'm basically saying is it's okay if the travel is a little bit longer. It's more important for me to make sure that the high priority work all gets onto the schedule rather than, potentially the most optimal route. So if it's 20 minutes more travel for the day, but I get one more high priority work in or high priority work order in, that's what I'm going to pick. So I'm just going to go ahead and use maximize utilization. For time range, you can see we've got a couple of different options. I can do just today, or I can do up to the next 3 days. I can also drop into a custom range and do any arbitrary 3 days any point in the future. So sometimes people like to build out the schedule for the next week, and this gives you a good base. So I can pick custom range, choose Monday through Wednesday of the next week, and start building out their schedule for the next week. I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of the day today because that's what I'm worried about right now. We can pick time zones. So if you're scheduling across multiple time zones, you can display everything relative to a particular time zone. I also get to choose which new work is going to come in as part of this optimization. So with this, I can select a requirements view. It's going to default to, you'll see I'm on the schedule board. So I have this all Puget Sound is the default view on the schedule board. So it's going to default to that, but I can go in and pick any other system view that I have access to. In this case, I'm going to stick with the default and say all Puget Sound requirements. And then we get into our scheduling options. And this is sort of where it starts to show what SOA is doing behind the scenes. So I'm going to make sure I match all the required characteristics, and I'm going to match territories as well as promise windows. SOA takes into account all of any of the way that you're modeling the data. SOA will take that into account and to build out the schedule. So if you've got characteristics or roles or territories or promise windows or from to dates on your requirements and all of the sort of the other restrictions that we can place on demands and capacity, so it can go ahead and help you with all of those and make sure everything gets matched up correctly, along with minimizing the routes and making sure travel time looks good. I can also choose to use predictive travel time, which what this will do is it looks at historical travel at that particular time and day. This is really useful for urban environments where you have large rush hour traffic and stuff like that, to make sure that, hey, if you're telling somebody to go travel at 5 p.m. on a Friday, historically that traffic takes longer there. So predictive travel will take that into account and try to better model the travel time at that particular time of day. It's one thing that we get a question a lot actually about is why don't we use real-time travel? Well, real-time travel doesn't super work because we're talking about 5 o'clock in the evening today and it's only noon. So looking at the travel right now doesn't really tell me what travel is going to be like at 5 o'clock. Predictive travel says around 5 o'clock, this is what travel is like normally for that day. So it's sort of a prediction model that looks into the future. I'm going to go ahead and leave that off for now and just go ahead and click Suggest Schedule. So this bundles up all the information, sends it over to our optimization engine or algorithms, the AI that powers all of this, and it's going to build out a schedule for Mohammed. So you can see here, we went from a blank schedule to filled out with all of the work and the requirements. I can expand this down, but I was filling up a blank schedule, so there's no current schedule, but you can see the route for this resource on the schedule board and the direction that they're going to travel throughout the day. I can apply that and go ahead and get that updated onto their schedule. And again, so this is all, the idea here is the dispatcher is still in control of everything here. They get to review before applying, so they can choose and they can make adjustments. You can rerun it and all of that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. I used a few optimizers kind of over my years, Andrew, and that almost looks too easy. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things you'd have to set up and configure in the background there, lots of levers and kind of settings.
SOA is sort of designed from the ground up to fit into the normal flow. So it doesn't, while we will offer those in the future, but for anybody who wants to just get started out of the box, we have out of the box goals that have balanced objectives behind the scenes for folks who are familiar with sort of optimization terminology. But yeah, it's really straightforward. It's one simple toggle to turn it on, and then you can try it out. We'll go through that in a bit, I think, to take a look at what that will look like.
Great. So like optimization for everyone.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? Is to make it as easily accessible and as quick to use as possible, while also making sure that by doing that, we leave the dispatcher in control. You're not, none of this is happening behind the scenes. The dispatcher can see what's about to be applied to the schedule and adjust as needed. One other scenario that I wanted to show is that happens quite regularly is a new critical, a critical priority work or an emergency priority, or however, your particular organization uses that terminology, but something that comes in that's new that needs to be scheduled. But you're looking at your resources and you're going, everybody's booked for the whole day, but I know this needs to be done at 2:30. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my brand new work item onto the schedule, or my work order onto the schedule for Maria, because I know I need her to go there and do that work at 2:30. And what I can do here is once I have that on the schedule, there it goes. Once I have that on the schedule, I can, through work item states, I can go ahead and lock this. And I can show a bit about how to set this up. It's pretty straightforward, but I can by booking status, go ahead and decide how the optimization is gonna handle this booking. In this case, I want this to be locked. What I'm telling it is, I don't want you to move this thing. What I want you to do is build a schedule around it. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one work order that I just scheduled, that new emergency work. And then I'm going to run SOA on top of Maria because now I know I need to redo the rest of the schedule around it. So I've got that one locked in there. And for the rest of the day, I just want to fill it out with a good route around that one that I knew that she had to go to. So I'm going to go ahead and suggest schedule.
This is a very interesting way of using that locked item status, Andrew. And I was as I was watching that, I was thinking it's almost would I have thought to drag that on to the board in a place where there's already a booking, right? But
Yeah,
the way you did that's very interesting. Yeah,
yeah, it feels a little unnatural, right? Because you're like, well, I'm just going to drop this on the schedule, even though I know it's already overbooked. But with SOA, that gives you a really easy way to fix all of the stuff around it.
I like it.
Start from the place of I know I need this thing, and now, hey, agent, please go handle all of the stuff around. So you can see on my resulting schedule, I have that locked work order that I dropped in here that absolutely had to be done at that time. And then I said, cool, build the schedule around it. So they decided, oh, I can't fit this one in before. It's not enough travel time, but I had this nice small booking that I can fit in before, and we can fill up the rest of the day with this one. Oh, while I'm here, we do get a question about why there's white space at the end of the day. This is because the resource needs to have time to travel back home. So while there is no visual representation of this travel at the end of the day, that last little bit of white space at the end of the day is to make sure they have time to get back to the depot while it's still in their shift. So not giving folks overtime when they didn't ask for overtime. But yeah, so you can see this. So I was able to figure out a nice schedule to fit around that one that I needed, and I can go ahead and apply this and make this change.
That's awesome. I mean, that's such a common scenario in field service. You promised the customer you'll be there at a particular time, and then having to shuffle everything around to try and fit that in it can be a real pain. So that's awesome.
Yep. And this gets more and more powerful with the more sort of data modeling stuff you're using inside field service in general. So the more you're using characteristics and promise windows and roles and territories and sort of all of the other constraints, if you're a heavy schedule assistant user, this will work really well for you out of the bat. If you have stuff set up to work with schedule assistant, we're going to use the same sort of eligibility matching in SOA that schedule assistant's going to use, and then layer on our AI optimization engine on top of it, so that you get good results. But it's all the same sort of matching. So any work that you've done to set up field service to work well with Schedule Assistant or sort of our other matching capabilities, all feed into this.
That's something we probably will get a lot of people asking or watching this is Schedule Assistant, and so are they using the same underlying engine? Are they similar?
Yeah, they're very similar. They use the so we sort of when we think of optimizations, we sort of break the problem down into well, I'll talk about the two major bits right now. The first is what we call eligibility mapping. And this is this resource and this requirement matched? Are there any constraints that say these two things shouldn't go together? Do you require a plumber and this resource is an electrician? You have mismatched characteristics, it doesn't work. And then the second half is all about routing and optimization and all of those trade-off decisions that go into building a good route for a resource. Dispatchers do all that kind of stuff in their head. The agent, that's what the goal where I was selecting between maximize utilization and high priority work. That's sort of those trade-off decisions. So Schedule Assistant and SOA are going to share the same eligibility side of that. So all of the mapping stuff is essentially the same across both.
Andrew, I'm kind of curious. How do you set this up?
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. That's actually really nice and easy to do. So I'm in my resource scheduling app, but you don't have to be in the resource scheduling app. You can do it from field service or anywhere else. But I'm going to go over to my administration settings, and I'm going to jump to scheduling parameters, which is sort of our big top level configuration for scheduling in general. And you'll see we have this agents tab on my scheduling parameters record, and it's just a quick toggle. I can turn SOA on and off. Now, behind the scenes, the scheduling operations agent uses Copilot credits. So you do need to have some Copilot credits in your tenant, and have those allocated. But once you have that side set up, turning on and off the agent itself is just this one single toggle.
We're all creating Copilot Studio agents at the moment, so I'm sure we've got lots of those lying around. So that's excellent.
I was going to say it's amazing how simple it is to turn this agent on. The single toggle, and like what you said, you have the Copilot credits, and then straight away, if you go back to your schedule board, you'll have that option to be able to use it, right? That's it.
Yep, that's it.
Is SOA really just for field service? I mean, it's a great application, really excited. But if I was maybe using customer service, would this be applicable as well? Because
It is, yeah. So one of the nice things about SOA is it's sort of designed to work at the resource requirement level. So if you're aware of the way your work order relates to a resource requirement, which then relates to a booking, you can have lots of different parents above the resource requirement. So it could be a project, it can be a custom entity, any entity that you've made scheduled. It could be a service activity if you're coming from the CE world. Lots of different ways to make an entity schedulable. And once you make it schedulable, what that basically says is, okay, well, this entity I can create requirements against. And SOA works on requirements. So anything that you can make schedulable, SOA can go ahead and schedule for you. There's a little bit you got to do to make sure that you have your statuses all set up correctly, which is pretty straightforward. But once you have your statuses set up and mapped to how you want SOA to handle them, it all flows through pretty nicely.
Now, Andrew, is this something that is targeted more at larger customers or medium? How do you see this?
It really works well for all sizes of customers. We've sort of tried to keep it lightweight's not exactly the right word. It goes as deep as you need it to go, essentially. So for our larger customers who have done a lot of work into setting up characteristics and roles and all of those types of things, they have multiple territories, they're working across time zones and all of the complexity that comes in with multi-location scheduling. So it will work. It'll take all of that information into account and will work just fine. But for a smaller customer that has one or two locations, or you're in a geographic locality, maybe you've got 3 in the Pacific Northwest, it will work for that as well. If you don't have characteristics set up, it just won't use them. So it will sort of meet you where you are, wherever you are in your scheduling journey. SOA is designed to work with you.
Fantastic.
So one of the things we set up is I showed the lock option. If I take a look at the different booking statuses. So here I have my arrived booking status. Those are the right click that you saw on the schedule board options. What I can do is I can choose how I want SOA to deal with this. So I have 3 options. I can say do not move, lock this thing in place, leave it where it is. I can tell SOA it's okay to optimize it, or I can also ignore it. So sometimes you have placeholder bookings or things that have been canceled that you want to stay there, but you don't, you want the engine or your dispatchers to be able to schedule over the top of them. That's what ignore is for. So things like canceled, or maybe just something that's informational on your schedule board that's not actually a booking. You can have a status that maps to ignore. So we'll go ahead and leave those where they are and schedule over the top of them. Yep, but that's kind of it for setup is making sure you have your booking statuses aligned to how you want SOA to handle them. All of the out-of-the-box statuses ship with this optimization setup for you. But if you have your own custom ones, you will need to go in and make a decision. But other than that, it'll just run.
I think one of the other things I saw was reading about SOA is you do need to have locations for your resources. So we don't do location agnostic. Is that correct?
For the next couple of months, it should become very shortly, so we can that's a great transition towards roadmap stuff. So location agnostic resources are we're actually testing that right now. Spinning up the test environments to test that next week, or sorry, tomorrow. And we will, yeah, so that'll be in product shortly. We will handle location agnostic resources.
Moving really quickly. I'm sure there's going to be loads of new features being added to SOA as time moves on.
Yeah, we definitely plan to expand here as rapidly as we can. It's a huge area of investment for us, and we are very committed to sort of rolling these out as they are available to get feedback and to get that value into everybody's hands as soon as possible. So this will be very iterative over the next 12 to 18 months as we continue to add more and more and more capabilities on top of the agent.
I got maybe one last question just to challenge you, Andrew. So what if you could have had to summarize, what would you say is that one compelling reason? Why would customers want to go turn on SOA today? How would they benefit most?
So I think for me it's kind of a non-reason, but I think one of the biggest reasons why I would say you can turn on SOA is because there's not really any downside. The dispatcher is still in control. They're still in the driver's seat. They can still review, and so it really is very low risk to turn it on and see if it's going to benefit you and your organization. And you will find it's really flexible, working around schedules, particularly with the lock options and the different goals, to turn it on and find what scenarios work well for you. It really can save a lot of time for dispatchers, particularly when you're looking forward and you have a blank schedule or a nearly blank schedule and you want to fill in around stuff. It's very good for those types of scenarios. If I take a look at, let me show you a couple other things you can do. So I showed that you can select a net new requirement schedule. So one of the things you can choose to do is sort of hacks with SOA, I suppose, if you want to say, you can give it an empty requirement schedule, and then SOA is not going to consider any new work. And so it will just move around your existing work. So let's say you have a situation where you've got everything scheduled to a resource, but you look at the route and the route just doesn't make any sense. You know you want that resource to go do all of that work, but you know the route's wrong. You can run SOA on top of that resource, and it will just rearrange the bookings that are already there and make you a much better route. You can even do the opposite side of that, which is instead of rearranging the existing work, I just want it to fill in around. I don't want it to move anything. All of the things that I scheduled to this resource, I've confirmed with a customer. I know they need to stay there. I just want to fill in around it. This is really good for scenarios where you have some recurring maintenance work but you also have stuff that you're scheduling, hard appointments with customers. So your dispatchers are handling the hard appointments with customers. You get all of those scheduled, and then you want to fill in with that recurring maintenance work. I can come in with SOA and set up my statuses to say, hey, anything I've scheduled, don't move. I can, use that do not move on the booking status that I showed. Say, I don't want you to move any of the existing stuff. And then I give it my recurring maintenance view that says, hey, here's all we've got crude work, but you could have recurring maintenance or whatever else that works to fill in around those blanks. And then SOA will leave the existing schedule there and just figure out what fits around it. So it's really flexible if you sort of think through the different ways that it might be applicable in your particular space.
Thank you. I think you had me at saving time, saving money. Those are two words that stood out for me.
Sorry, yeah, I guess that was maybe a little bit longer than just
No,
for
no.
one reason.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
I go on tangents sometimes, it happens.
Andrew, this looks fantastic. Now, if I was a customer and I wanted to use this, what's the status of this? Is this like in preview now? Is it GA? What's going on there?
Right. So we are currently in public preview, and it's a safe public preview. So lots of times with public preview, there's sort of maybe this hesitancy to use it in production. But in this case, SOA is we're supporting folks in production, and it's very much you're in the driver's seat. You're going to see all the changes that are going to be made. So it's not going to do anything behind the scenes that you're not aware of. So we are in public preview, and we expect to be in public preview at least through the beginning of next year as we add some more functionality to this. But yeah, so we're in public preview right now, but you're pretty okay to go ahead and use it in production.
Sounds amazing. So I think we've seen here AI scheduling in Dynamics 365, and this is really the future of scheduling that we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share this. It's our first step on a multi-step journey, and I hope some folks come along with us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew. This has been amazing. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you all.